Only the host nation, incumbent champions and 7 highest ranked Arab teams automatically qualify for the Arab Cup. Palestine were not ranked high enough to automatically qualify. They had to play a winner-takes-all match against Libya to earn their spot. Whilst Libya have also had a torrid history, there would be no pushovers. They've qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations 3 times and have finished runners-up in the Arab Cup twice. They failed to qualify for the last Arab Cup, but under new manager Aliou Cisse, Libya was able to pull off an impressive spree of results, including an impressive 3-3 draw with World Cup debutants Cape Verde. The players and coaches all looked up to Cisse. After all, he had led Senegal to victory as a player, and then as a manager. The match wasn't easy for either side, and after the full-time whistle, the ever-dreaded penalty shootout began. Libya blinked first. Palestine made it.
يا فلسطين يا قصيدة كتبتها السماء وقرأها العالم بعيون دامعة وفؤاد فخور الفداء الفلسطيني إلى بطولة كأس العرب. فلسطين إلى بطولة كأس العرب.
This on its own was seen as an achievement. Since the outbreak of the Gaza war, Palestine has been unable to secure a safe area to train. Palestinian sports infrastructure has been completely wiped out. Over 400 Palestinian footballers have had their lives claimed by the conflict. Stadiums became refugee shelters, and the West Bank Premier League was indefinitely suspended since the beginning of the war. The Palestinian national team, its players and coaches, have themselves become refugees. They have trained in various parts of the world, ranging from Catalonia to Qatar, but never in Palestine. Qualifying for the Arab Cup was a headline on its own, and the players and coaches knew this. This was the toughest playoff match. Libya are strong. Our circumstances and absences made it harder, but we are proud. Football is one of the few things that can bring happiness to Palestinians. We play for more than trophies. We play to send a message and bring joy to our people. But Palestine's opening match was against Qatar, the hosts and reigning champions of Asia. They were the hosts of the last World Cup and one of the favourites for this tournament. They'd previously played each other over a year ago at the 2023 Asian Cup. There, Qatar defeated Palestine 2-1. It's a result that's just been remembered as a footnote in that tournament. Here though, things would be totally different. After an elaborate opening ceremony complete with atmospheric Arab music, choreographed dancing and extravagant light show, Palestine and Qatar began their rematch. But instead of rolling over as expected, Palestine put up an unexpected fight. On the other side of the pitch, Qatar's attackers struggled to convert their chances. With 30 seconds to go, Palestine had a corner. They were desperate to score and put the game to bed. Qatar, meanwhile, were desperate for a draw. On the other side of the group, Syria defeated Tunisia 1-0. The dynamics of the group had shifted completely. It was widely expected that Qatar and Tunisia were to qualify ahead of Syria and Palestine. These two results had changed everything. Palestine then faced Tunisia, but by the end of the first half, the Tunisians had taken the lead. 6 minutes into the second half, Tunisia carved Palestine apart, a series of amateurish defensive mistakes gifting the North Africans the lead. It seemed that everything had fallen apart. Palestine's moment in the limelight had passed. Suddenly, Hamed Hamdan scored a sensational first-time strike from outside the box. It was one of the best goals of the tournament. Late on in the 84th minute, Zaid Kunbar smashed it in to make it 2-2. Another late goal to save Palestine, and the dream lived on. Meanwhile, Syria was living their own fairy tale as a late Omar Kribin goal salvaged a 1-1 draw against Qatar. 3 days later, Syria and Palestine faced each other in their final group stage game. When the full-time whistle blew, both the Syrian and Palestinian players celebrated their qualification for the knockout stage together. Both nations had made history. In the other groups, things had gone mostly as expected. Morocco and Saudi Arabia both stomped out the competition in their groups, whilst Jordan, the UAE, Iraq and Algeria also qualified as expected. Palestinians prepared for the first ever Arab Cup knockout stage game. Their opposition? Saudi Arabia. It was the ultimate David versus Goliath matchup, and from the beginning, it was clear as to why Palestine were the underdogs.
من ماتش جزر القمر الهجوم السعودي لا يسجل ولكن هذه كرة خطيرة تلعب كرة عرضية كرة جول لبريكان أخطر.
Palestine had already shown that their defense could be opened, and in the 54th minute, the Palestinian defense finally cracked. Al-Dosari, one of Asia's most lethal attackers, was downed by Mohamed Saleh.
ينظر الحارس يتقدم ويحط الهدف الأول سعودي 1-0 لبريكان.
But Palestine dug their heels in. 6 minutes later, Amid Sawafta crossed the ball from deep, aiming to find Oda Dabag in the box. The Saudi Arabian defense had been sleeping. Dabag had slipped free, but the ball was coming at a difficult angle at a fast speed. Getting it under control wouldn't be easy. Chances like this were not easy to come across. This could have been Palestine's last major opportunity to score.
سأحدثكم عن أبيض وأخضر والهدف التعادل هدف التعادل عدي الدباغ بصبغة فلسطيني.
Miraculously, Dabag managed to control the ball with a single touch and with his second, volleyed it into the back of the net. In a flash, Palestine were back in the game. However, right after, Ali Madrashi's shot shook the Palestinian crossbar, a reminder that the game was far from over, and Palestine, despite clawing themselves back into the game, were just as vulnerable as they were before. The attacks continued, the siege was unrelenting. The feel-good atmosphere of the tournament slowly turned into one of desperation, and in the 95th minute, Palestinian defense cracked one last time. With seconds to go, Saudi Arabia had won a penalty. The journey was finally over. The referee jogged to the VAR monitor to double-check his decision, and then...
جاكم أمين باش يشيلها أمين. No penalty. No penalty.
A lifeline had been handed, and the dream lived on, and into extra time the game went. The Palestinians had been pushed to their limits. Their defense cracked one final time. There was no comeback.
فات المباراة مبروك للأخضر السعودي هارد لك ولكن مبروك بالأداء للفداء الفلسطيني ومرت السعودية مرة أخرى وعاد لكم الأخضر من جديد السعودية 2.
Whilst the glitz and glamour continued in Qatar, conflict still raged in Palestine. Reports have been conflicting, but it is generally agreed that between 500 to 900 Palestinian sportsmen and women have had their lives ended by the Israeli military. The reason the death toll is disputed is because of the number of missing people under the rubble and restricted access enforced by the IDF. The true number may never be known. 288 sports facilities have been destroyed across Palestine. Scores of coaches and PE teachers, the people who would operate these facilities, have also had their lives taken. Generations of Palestinian sportsmen and women have been wiped out. These were not just ordinary amateurs, but Olympians, international champions, famous coaches, and more. Whole legacies, memories, and history buried in the rubble. But for all the celebrations, prestige, prize money, fireworks and partying that happened in Qatar, it was Palestine that were the true winners. For Morocco, the Arab Cup is actually a periphery tournament to the African Cup of Nations and World Cup. For Saudi Arabia, this tournament, although alluring, is nothing in comparison to the prestige that Saudi Arabian clubs bring and the larger prize of the Asian Cup. The same can be said about nearly half the teams present, but for Palestine, each pulsating moment was felt at home. Amidst the rubble, a populace had found a reason to celebrate, and for a moment the war paused as the nation came together to enjoy the world's sport. They feel for us, and they know what has happened to us, and they are doing the impossible to bring joy to the Palestinian people. Every match and every tournament is an opportunity to prove ourselves, and through the Arab Cup, we are sending a message to the world that we are a people who love life. Where suffering like any Palestinian family suffers in the Gaza Strip, there are shortages of everything. We lack water, we cook over fire, there's no electricity. There is no other joy than football. For the last few decades, cheery events have been rare for the Palestinian people, but for a few games of football, a few periods of 90 minutes, a few men kicking a ball on a pitch in Qatar, a war-torn, displaced people has enjoyed a moment of respite and escape from their everyday challenges. The story of the Arab Cup is not about the exploits of Morocco or Jordan or Saudi Arabia, but a story of how the simple game of football was able to empower a whole nation, no matter the suffering it had endured. But for many, football is just a game, a spectacle. But for Palestine, it became life itself. The ability for the national team to defy all odds and put on a show that fans of all backgrounds enjoyed and supported reflects the resilient spirit of the Palestinian people themselves. The true victor of the Arab Cup was Palestine, and very few people will ever know the true value that 90 minutes of joy can bring.